What's going on, everybody? S.L.B coming at you with another video review, and we have reached the end of the Transform Mission line. This is going to be a review of Transform Mission HAVOC, but really quickly I want to go over the vehicle modes. We'll go over the individual robot modes, and then we'll get into full-on combined mode. But individually, for the vehicle modes, these vehicle modes look amazing. They are gorgeous. There's no doubt that these are Stunnicons. The scale is great, and I love the paint on all of them. I love the pearl white. I love this flat color, this flat, almost gunmetal gray here, a very dark gunmetal gray, I should say. I think this yellow works really well, and I think this maroon is just spot on. As for this black on powertrain here, I think it's great. There's nothing, in my opinion, in vehicle mode, there's nothing bad to say about these vehicle modes. They scale great. Love the rubber tires. Love the plastic for the windows. I love the molded detail. So for overall vehicle mode, I think these look great. So let's get into robot modes for the individual robot modes and see what the individual robot modes look like in comparison, shall we? And here we have them all together in their robot modes, and transformations aside, especially in the leg areas with overturn, disorder, and carnage, I still think this set is really good. I think the look of them is outstanding. The aesthetic is great. The color schemes are spot on. They look like they literally just jumped right out of the comic books and into your hand. I do really like them. Transformations aside, and again, I'll say this is in my order of favorite to worst. Number 1, Powertrain. Number 2, Revolt. Number 3, Disorder. Number 4, Overturn. And number 5, Carnage. That's my opinion. Your mileage may vary because they're your figures. Let's get them into combined mode, shall we? So before we get into full combined mode, this is a quick disclaimer. Well, not really a disclaimer. This is just a little added bonus, whatever thing you want to call it. But when you got Overturn, you got some additional pieces here. You got these, which are, let's go this way. They're replacement bits for the shins, and I guess this is for stability, or people have been saying they've gotten some stress marks on these connector bits right here. I have not gotten any. I think that's the only reason that these are included for. So I put one of them on, I took one of them off, and I didn't see a difference really much except for the part that this slides. And this could also be for stability purposes right here, because this would point down right in here and just kind of not really lock it into place, but I don't know. It's there. In my opinion, it's not necessary, but that's what that's for. Also included is you get this little clip bit right here, which is for Revolt in his combined limb mode, but we'll show you how that works in a second. But there's a way to store this. They kind of did this brilliantly. That's not a word. They did this in a smart way, where if you take the back wheels here for the trailer mode, which make the chest plate or make the shield, you flip down this piece right here. There's 2 little holes right here, and these 2 parts go into these holes right here like this. Although it's a little too tight, you might need to take a little bit of it off on one side, but kind of force it in there, and it likes to pop out. But they're supposed to store in there, and then you fold it up in there, and that's the way it's stored in vehicle mode. For robot mode, you can pretty much store it in there as well, or you can just throw it, to the side, because it's the only real need for this is in combined mode with Revolt here. So you take the arm piece and you kind of sandwich it between the connector parts right here. You gotta get it in there just like that. And then you take this piece, and you see there's a little raised section right here, and there's grooves. I don't know how well you can see that. There's grooves in the connector bits right here, and you're supposed to just take it and hang on one second. Let me see which way. Hang on. Okay. So if you're facing it like this, with these parts facing towards you, you take it, flip it upside down like this, and then it should just slide. Not really easily, but it slides somewhat. Gotta get it just right. May take some finagling, but once you get it in there, it locks this bit, so when you're bending it, it's not gonna pop apart on you. It kind of compresses it a little bit. So there's that. So that's it for the additional, bits. Let's get them into full combine mode, shall we? Okay, here's how we're gonna do things in combine mode. We're just gonna start at the top and work our way down, so you can see some transitions. But I wanted to go kind of in not too much detail, but I just kind of want to give you close-up views of how everything works on this guy. Bear with me, my first combiner reviewing, so just let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. So let's get started on that head. This head is just simply gorgeous. This is just a gorgeous, gorgeous face sculpt. The horns here look very menacing, no pun intended. Really cool, really good articulation. The head can look up. It's on a dual swivel, can look up very far, can look down pretty good as well. I mean, also what's really neat is I think I showed this off already, but it's the face swapping gimmick here with the screaming face right there, which I think looks really good. And if you want to add some detail on that face, there's a battery compartment in the back here. It just screws in up there. The batteries are included with powertrain, which is a good thing, but there's a button on the side here. Just flick that, and you get some nice LED eyes, which I think looks really, really cool. I think this looks really, really cool overall. I mean, just a very gorgeous head sculpt. And I like the pillars on the side here. And I think the head is positioned just right. So let's turn that off. And yeah, I think that looks really good. So now let's move on to the shoulders and arms, shall we? Okay, so for the shoulders and arms, let's go over articulation. The arms can do a full 360 on a very nice, tight ratchet joint. You can get a little bit of movement out that way. If you want more range in the shoulder going outward, all you got to do is just move those back a little bit, and you can get, let's move his head out of the way here, but you can get even more range of movement, which is really nice. It's really nice that they considered that when they were designing him, in my opinion. Let's get that back the way it was. There is a swivel right here in the forearm area, a very tight ratchet. Hear that satisfying click in the elbow. You can get under 9 degrees in the elbow there. Just move it back right here. Let's bring the arm up. The wrist is on a swivel. Sorry, you couldn't see it, but the wrist is on a very nice swivel. If we move him to the side here, I'll open up his hand and I'll show you the articulation in the hand, which is really, really nice range of movement in the hand here. You got a ball joint here, individual ball joints here, here, and here, and each finger has 2 hinges at each knuckle, which is really nice. So if you want, you're like me, you can get some really nice really nice, you know, poses out of the hands as well. And if you don't feel like getting sued and you're a wrestling fan like I am, you can do that and just give him a nice little too sweet. So that is that. As far as him holding his weapons, he holds his weapons like a champ. I mean, let's get that down. Let's put him this way so you can see. Sorry, pardon my reach. But here's his sword. It's got kind of like a masterpiece style. So you just slide it in there. Like that. Wrap his fingers around it. And there you have him holding his sword. And he holds it very well. All those ratchets in the shoulder and the elbow are nice and tight. And it's not going to tip over or anything. And this thing is very top heavy, I will add. Because when you getting it from the original mode to the longer version, it's still very top heavy, but he holds it very well. And then you take his combined weapon here, and it's the same thing. You just gotta make sure the fingers are kind of bent in a little bit so you can get his fingers in there. And then just plug it in. And again, he holds it. Now it's just me loosening it up. There we go. He holds it very well. It's not tipping over quite as much. I mean, yes, he's a little top heavy, but there you go. There he is holding his weapons. Now, something added in this, which I didn't show off when I was doing the review of Powertrain, but if we turn him around to the back here, look at his back, if you flip up this panel, right in here, get your finger in there, you can kind of bring this out a little bit. Hold on. Let me grab this. Come on. Come on. Come on. Oh, it's fighting with me. Of course it's fighting with me. There we go. Now this whole thing's going to topple off. There we go. Plug that back in there. So this little peg back here can help you store the sword. Unfortunately, it doesn't store. Does it store vertically? I don't know. No, it doesn't. It only stores in certain directions because it's a hexagonal shape. So you can get the sword stored in that pose, which is really nice that it has a place to hold the sword. Also, can also store the weapon in the back here. Unfortunately, you can only do one or the other. You can't do both, unless no, you gotta do one or the other. But there are these slots back here. There are these tabs right here. You gotta pull that down. But there he is. You can store the gun there as well. So that's kind of cool for the upper section of it. I think that's really nice. So we'll move on to the waist area and the hips. So let's get right into that, shall we? Moving on to the hips and the waist right here, he does have a hip swivel. The crotch piece kind of does get in the way and hinder it a little bit, which is kind of a nuisance. But if you pop it up, you can get some movement in the hips. Right there. Let's get the arm out of the way here. The hips, because of this connective part right here from Powertrain going from robot mode to combined mode, you don't get a lot of articulation in the hips here because it's the way the L shape is. But you can get some flexibility right there. Unfortunately, it's not a very tight joint. So that's kind of a bummer. And again, if you don't have these two parts plugged in correctly and kind of wedged in there, it's going to come undone. You do get a swivel up here in this part, which is pretty nice. It's pretty nice. This is probably where the majority of the people's issues are. And the backpack just came off. But is in the hips area, because people have been saying that has had problems standing. And if you notice throughout this whole review so far, he's had no issue standing up. Yes, he leans forward a little bit, but nothing. So your mileage may vary, but that's it for the hips and the waist. Not a lot going on in there. The crotch piece right here is kind of a disturbance. And I thought that above the crotch piece you can turn it, but no, it's literally right here where you can turn it. And even if you move the hip skirts up from powertrain, which I think you're supposed to, you still have the issue of the crotch piece getting in the way of some swivel there. So kind of a nuisance, kind of a bummer in that regard to that. So let's move on to the knees and the ankles. Let's move on to the rest of the lower half here. Okay, let's move on to the knees and to the ankles, because I think this is where a lot of people, not just the hips, but I think a lot of people are having their issues in this area right here. I took off this order here to show some people something, but let's quickly go over the articulation. He does have a knee bend, a very nice tight knee bend right there. It can get under 90 degrees. Oh, that's very tight, very solid. The ankle, you do have a nice ratcheted tilt right there. No forward, no back in it, which is kind of a bummer, but you know, he's a combiner. You don't need him getting in some gnarly poses. But so let's go over this section really quickly here, because I think this is where a lot of people are having their issues. There is a panel right here that if you don't plug in, that's where I think people are having their issues, is these two parts right here, I think might be wearing on people, might be kind of chipping away. It's not the most brilliant, I wouldn't say brilliant, it's not the smartest way to go about getting a nice tight ankle joint right there, because you have these little nubs that go into these holes. I maybe would have extended them longer or had something else to kind of click this together to give him the ankle support, or not just in front, but something in back here to give him also some ankle support, because this is, I think, why it's leaning forward a lot, is because there's nothing to catch it back here, and a lot of the weight is up front there from, you know, the added parts of carnage and disorder, plus the arms are kind of all in a line here to make it want to lean forward. So I think that's what a lot of people's issues are. But this whole review, I've had him in this stance, and he hasn't, you know, toppled over. He's been very wobbly, I'll give him that. But it really hasn't been as bad as maybe I'm making it out to be, or as some people's comments are making it out to be. So let's put disorder back on here. Come on. There we go. See? It's like a glove. And again, I can understand why people's issues are. So that's it for articulation. Let's just zoom out and just go into some comparisons. Okay, so for comparison, let's bring in this big behemoth right here. There we go. Combiner Wars Devastator. And that's a nice comparison. There we go. Now that big guy's out of the way, we can bring in some smaller comparisons. So here he is with Combiner Wars Menosaur. A little incomplete, I know, late to the party with Combiner Wars. I'm still hunting him down, but there's that comparison. And since he is masterpiece scaled, boom, and boom. There you go. So, there he is, all nice, neat, tidy. So yeah, that's it for comparisons. Let me get into some final thoughts. Final thoughts on Transform Missions, the entire line. I think it's worth the price. I think this is a great set. I think this is a great set of figures. If you want an IDW masterpiece collection, this is the way to go. I do think that there are some major QC issues in the combined mode, in the hips, and in the ankles mostly. Other than that, I think he's a really solid figure. Like I said, I've had him in this stance the entire video, and he's only leaned forward a little bit. So, I mean, it is what it is. I like him. I dig him. I recommend him to anybody, especially you, Wilson. So if you like this video, leave a thumbs up, like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Find me on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. All that information will be in the link down below. If you have any comments about this figure, about this video, let me know in the comment section down below. This is S.L.B, and this has been my review of Transform Mission HAVOC. And this is S.L.B saying, my childhood hates me. There.